cognition. You're thinking about your own thinking, but you're thinking about, why am I doing something with students? Is there a reason for this? What is it about? Because obviously if you know why you're doing what you're doing, you're a much more authentic teacher, right? And it can lead to better learning. So here's the crossover with literacy, right? I would make a mention that deep reading, when you do deep reading, that is what learning through narrative or story is. What is that about? It's about gaining focus while working within a context. It's about moving forward and shaping a future. It's about freedom and about creativity and about the depth of the imagination as well. And it requires full thinking, full awareness, or full presence. And it's hard work for teachers and learners. So here's the poem. One step backward taken. Not only sands and gravels were once more on their travels, but gulping muddy gallons, great boulders off their balance, bumped heads together dully and started down the gully. Whole capes caked off in slices. I felt my standpoint shaken in the universal crisis. But with one step backward taken, I saved myself from going. A world torn loose went by me, then the rain stopped and the blowing, and the sun came out to dry me. So some would say it's about the end of the world through mudslide, right? But basically, it's the idea of someone out in, probably the monsoon, if you're thinking about in India, and the rain is falling so hard that sides of hills are coming down, and you're probably standing somewhere there, and you say, I better take a step back, and you save yourself from going. Now that's the literal meaning. The figurative meaning can be, there's a colleague I have trouble with, and I need to step back from them psychologically. Or it could be, I have a student who pushes my buttons, and I have to not let that student push my buttons. So, or any number of things. So there's lots of figurative meaning there. So, I do speak quickly. I'm kind of doing that because I know I have limited time, which probably isn't a good reason. But in India, these teachers at Balaram School were pretty proficient in English, but still, I needed to backtrack. Here's a boulder, right, and try to help them understand the language, because their English was so much better than my Hindi. So the literal meaning, the figurative meaning of the poem is about stepping back and saving oneself from something. It could be physical or psychological danger, like not getting in a car with a reckless driver. What else? And then I would show them, well, so imagine, this is actually in Rishikesh in northern India, and there's the Himalayas and the Ganga. But imagine that in monsoon season, and you're standing on the side of the hill, and there's boulders coming down, and you've got to step back and save yourself, right? So you don't want to go on with the boulders. So then we'd look back at the poem. Is there someone out here now that can tell me, is there an image? Not only sands and gravels were once more in their travels, but gulping muddy gallons, great boulders off their balance, bumped heads together dully and started down the gully. Whole capes caked off in slices. I felt my standpoint shaken in the universal crisis, but with one step backward taken, I saved myself from going. A world torn loose went by me, then the rain stopped and the blowing, and the sun came out to dry me. Can somebody point out a line? We have some fabulous person that will offer. I can tell you where some images are, but I'd rather have you do it. You pick a line from there. What can you picture? Jerry?
Yeah, I'm actually not sure your question. That is
an image. An image is painted by words.
Off their balance.
Yeah.
I get
yeah.
An image there, but that doesn't relate to anything else. Is it supposed to?
Just an image in the poem. Okay. So yeah.
So it's more of the darker images, but I felt my standpoint shaken in the universal crisis.
So you might imagine universal crisis. Or you might look at like the boulders. What are the boulders described as? Like heads bumping, right? So you could picture that. So there's an image. So thank you for the examples. So I would ask them that. And then, this is where learning through narrative or story, I would say, okay, now you're going to map your life story, a life story, onto the poem. I want you to think of an event or experience in your life when you made a decision to step back from something. One step backward taken. And how it saved the day, or saved you from some kind of harm or bad experience, physical or psychological. You're being asked to make a connection to a story in your own life, which you will map onto the poem's meaning. This is a way of learning. I think we have enough to take 2 minutes to have you think of something and then share it. So can you think of something in your life where you've taken a step back? And it can be an actual physical landscape disaster, or it could be an interaction with someone else, but think for a moment. Raise your hand if you can think of an experience where you've taken a step back. Ballroom's the only one.
Because they've asked me this question several times.
Okay.
We have already made one.
All right, well then, you're the poster child here. So, what did you take a step back from?
Well, there was a time when I was going to go to medical school, or at least planned to go to medical school, and because of circumstances, I had to take a step back. And look where I am, very, very different. So that did change.
Yeah,
my life.
change where you went.
Completely, I think.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't be in the United States if I went to medical school.
Exactly. Well, this is an example. So the teachers, what they came up with, this one teacher, her name is Ava Shruti, she talked about what it was for her to take a step back. And she said she had to miss school one day. That was her taking a step back because her pet dog had run away from her house. Stepping back from her usual routine, she was missing school, but she had to do it. Her pet dog had bitten others before, including her brother. By staying home, she was able to catch the dog and bring him home before he hurt someone else. By stepping backward, as she understood it, she was able to avoid disaster and return to safety. Another teacher talked about how he'd been invited to go out with friends one evening to a nearby town, but he was worried about the driver's recklessness and decided not to join his friends. As it turned out, the police stopped the teacher's friends for bad driving. By stepping back and deciding not to go, this teacher, as he experienced it, had saved himself some trouble with the police. Now, how many of you have been in a car in India? Seems ironic that you'd be pulled over for bad driving. But anyway, what is this metacognitively? Well, the teachers were called upon to first help create the literal narrative of the poem, and then map or make specific connections between their own life stories and the deeper implications and meaning as they experienced it in the narrative. It was really hard for them because it was not a way that they were used to learning. They're usually not asked to make a connection to their own lives, and then they would remember that poem. Oh, that was when I had to stay home because I had to catch my dog. He was on the loose and he was going to bite someone. Oh, right, that poem was about the end of the world by mudslide, and it gave this images of, water sliding down and capes sliding off the sides of hills and so forth. The school again. So through the process, they could begin to discover how a shared reading experience, everyone reading the same poem and agreeing on the surface meaning, or the literal meaning of the narrative, and then at the same time how it could evoke singular and unique responses related to individual experiences. And this is that idea of learning through self. That, that I believe is a really sustainable way of teaching and learning. And the learning is the sustainability, is the thing that is sustainable. So what does deep reading mean? And that is the process. That's what you're doing when you're mapping your own life onto that. It's about slowing down, but it's about creating your own pace and environment for thinking. It plays a significant role in making a free and democratic society, which doesn't seem to be a big goal of education in K through 12 these days, which is part of what I want to work on, because I don't think that we're developing whole people. I think it's more like we're developing people with really good content knowledge. And that's important. It's not that that's not important, but we're also developing people who are going to help keep our free and democratic society and make that sustainable. It's a form of prajna, or intense creativity, that we want to promote at Kururam Vidyalaya. So second, I think I don't have time for the second experience. It's about a poem called Dust of Snow. So I'm going to go a little bit further into. So more pictures of the teachers.
Can you just give us a hint of the dust of snow though? Because
Yeah, okay.
large parts of India get no snow at all.
Well, I know,
I
okay,
haven't seen
yeah.
my first snow
Right,
until I arrived.
right. Well, I knew that, so I knew, okay, I'm going to teach this poem, Dust of Snow. Same kind of learning goals for the same poem, but I knew that my teachers, most of them had never seen snow, so I was going to have to deal with that. So, it's a very simple poem. The way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. So then I would talk to them, here's some snow, here's some more snow on trees and stuff. The snow's cold. And I'd talk to snow. Actually, my cousin and his family sent me a Christmas box and they sent me a can of fake snow, which was non-toxic, and actually was able to make snowmen with small Indian children who had never seen snow. And so talking about snow and then thinking about the poem again, and basically, it's a very New England poem in a way, right? Or any place that has snow, I guess, but in forests. So a person's out walking in the woods, and there's just been some snow, and a bird lands in the tree, and the person walking by, when the bird lands, the snow falls on the person's head, and the person, it changes the quality of their day. It changes their day somehow. So what I had them do is think of a day in your life when something favorable happened, something which you were not expecting, and explain how it changed your day. Now, I have to go back to the first picture, because this picture, this woman right here is Surabhi Sharma, who was my yoga teacher from a university I visited in northern India. And she came to visit me at Balaram's school. And the teachers were very excited because she could translate my English. I mean, they learned in English, but it was so helpful to have her there. So go back to where we were. And, sorry. So with the teachers, so I said, okay, you need to think of an experience where you were having an ordinary day, and you're out walking and snow falls on you, or figuratively, you know, you're having an ordinary day and something kind of neat happens and it brightens your day. And so this is one of the teachers, Anil. So his story for what his dust of snow was, so remember Surabhi, my yoga teacher's there translating me. He said, Surabhi is my dust of snow because I can understand you. And then all the other teachers are going, well, so-and-so's my dust of snow, you're my dust of snow. I'm like, no. That was Anil's response, okay? You can't steal Anil's response. That's his response. So, you know, the next day when I went in, I was like giving him positive, like, that's so great, Anil. That was such a neat way to think about it, right? That was perfect. That's totally understandable. And he'll remember that dust of snow. And I gave the teachers an assignment to memorize one of the Frost poems. Well, Dust of Snow is the shortest poem there is. And, you know, if I were a native Hindi speaker and I had to learn an English poem, I would choose that poem. So several of them memorized that poem. So even though they live in a place where there's no snow, they know a poem about snow. So here are the teachers, and I do this only for my memory too, to just, this is Sunanda, Sangeeta, Pragya, myself, I don't know his name, Mrs. Afzal, Osme, Surabhi, no, not Surabhi, Abhishruti, sorry, Punu, Khalid, Anil, and I forgot his name. But it was interesting. One of the reasons that this is a very interesting school is because there are both Muslims and Hindus teaching at this school. Mrs. Afzal, Osme, Khalid are all Muslims, and they get along fine, and their goal is to teach their students, and it's really quite a wonderful school, and it's continuing.
About 10% of the students are also Muslims.
10% are Muslim?
Yeah, about 10%.
Yeah, so it's a model in that way too, I think. These are Abba Shruti students. I think they're first graders. Me and Mrs. Ofsel in the principal's office. This is, you can see the Indian Einstein from the back here with the mop and hair. And this is a parent-teacher meeting at the school. So lots of parents coming to find out about what's going on with their students. This is the guest house. So you didn't see the guest house before, but it's actually really a very nice guest house. And when the weather is warm, it's actually kind of cool that you can walk up on the roof. When it's cold out, you're kind of wishing that you didn't be able to go to the stars immediately. But I really enjoyed it. So for me, did all roads lead to Balaram rather, in India? Well, most of them did. He grew up in Uttar Pradesh. He created this school. He's my colleague here. I have nothing to do with botulinum. I'm not even going to do Botox. He started the Center for Indic Studies at UMass Dartmouth, which is, he started that on the 132nd anniversary of Gandhi's birthday. The Uberoy Foundation, some of you might know about, but we train teachers in the summer in Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Jainism. This year was their second year with that. Pandit Ramsanuj being the father of the super accelerated learning theory, and I'm looking forward to continued work with him. These are some of Balaram's family members. Rajesh, his cousin brother. Ruchi, that's not Sunny, that's that is Sunny. Sunny, Pooja, Jum Jum, and a neighbor, right? And more of his family. They're making food for me, sitting on top of the roof of the guest house. So there's really a wonderful and growing community for learning at the school. And here's a picture from the first Uberoy training session. That was last year, but we have many more pictures there. And I just want to give another plug to Fulbright. And I was actually in New Delhi when Obama visited in November 2010. Everyone said, oh, he's here because he lost a bunch of seats in the Congress. But he said he was there, and I believe him that he said, that the possibilities for collaboration between India and the US are limitless. And I agree. And there's a picture of the President of India and Manmohan Singh, the Prime Minister, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama. This is Adam Grodsky, who is the head of Fulbright in India. There's a picture of me with him at the Fulbright conference in Goa in March. And more information about Fulbright. And again, another plug for my book with Bob. Come to Barnes & Noble's on October 17th. We'll try to get more information about that. So I would welcome some questions or comments or feedback. Yes?
So what was one memorable experience you had that you'll always remember?
Oh my. All right, I guess I'll tell the train one, I think. Because India is such an old culture, I guess this is one of the reasons why. The question that an American would ask you last is what an Indian would ask you first. So I was told when I was on the trains, don't talk to anybody, which I'm kind of an extrovert, but I was quiet for the first 12 hours. And then this person across from me kept saying, are you from Australia? And he's asking me all these things. So I said, I'm from America, I'm a professor, I'm here in a Fulbright, I'm researching the super accelerated learning theory, and so we're talking. So you can't make this up. He sells Amway, and he's telling me Amway has changed India, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So then he asked me, are you married? I'm like, no, I'm not married. Oh, how could you ever hope to be happy or fulfilled without being married, right? And so then I'm getting a little miffed. So I'm like, this is getting a little personal. I'm going to read my book now. Right? So he walks off. I went to get something to eat, and he walked back. And then he comes up and he says, my neck really hurts. Do you think that has to do with my memory? I said, I'm not a medical doctor, and I bet there's an Amway product that can help you. So that was one. I have many. But I learned Me Shardi Shuda Hun, which means I am married, because it was just easier to tell them I'm married. Now, where is Sir? Oh, he's in America. what does he do? Oh, he's an education professor. He doesn't exist. But every train I went on after that, they started should have won. So.
He asked whether
The next question would immediately be how many kids you have.
Right. And I mean, I understand, like,
Right.
in Indian philosophy, it's like you get your education, then you get married, then you have kids, then down the road a little bit, you go for enlightenment, and you leave your family. But you know, I'm an American, and that isn't the way I think about life necessarily. So, and you know, the divorce rate's only at 50%. Maybe arranged marriages are really the way to go. I don't know.
What about you were telling something about the children, the vice chancellor of the university that you were in?
Oh. Up at that university, yeah. I think they assumed I was married.
They didn't even ask me.
And then I think I have some horses. One's named Marissa, she's 14. One's named Charlie, he's 13. And then I have Mohita, who's 8. So it kind of sounds like I have kids. Well, somehow, somebody at the university said, oh, well, she has a daughter, right? I was at Shanti Kunj, next to Dev Sanskriti, and we were meeting with the chancellor and the wife of the chancellor, and I mean, this is so awful, but, you know, we're touching her feet and kneeling, greeting her, and she said, how is your daughter? I said, oh, she's fine. So it really wasn't the time you're like, I'm not married and I don't have any children. And I know, please don't spend time worrying about me, I'm okay. So, but, I mean, really, taxi drivers, are you married? Oh, yeah. Where's Sir? Oh, is he coming next time? Yep, he's coming on the next trip. Other questions, comments? Pandit?
Did you use, how do you have these children remember the square? In other words, what memorization technique did you use to help them to remember the square?
Well, repeating it over and over again, right? Isn't it super accelerator theory? If you repeat something 6 times, you tend to remember it. I mean, I did use some visualization techniques, which, I mean, I see all of these things as connected. For instance, when I taught the road not taken, which many of you know, 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and I, B1 traveler long I stood, and you know, it's made all the difference. I took the road less traveled. I did a lot of visualization with them, with some images, some beautiful images that could illustrate the poem.
Did you use any hand movements or any eye movements or anything of that nature?
For memorization, no, but when I was in Pondicherry and working with Sampadananda, what is that? There's a term I asked some of you before, for someone who, it's not that you're multitasking, but you can do 8 things simultaneously. It's a Sanskrit word. Shatavadani. And we did do some experiments with memory with some college students from University of Oregon who were visiting. And basically, Sampadananda, who has been to UMass before, he works at the Aurobindo Society in Pondicherry, and he has done some experiments with people who have that ability to focus deeply on 8 things at once. Now, that does not transfer. When we think about multitasking, if you're texting, listening to something, and talking to somebody, you're not deeply focusing on any of those unless you have skills for that. But I didn't use any. I have to spend more time with you with the hand movements. Oh, and Donna had a question, and then, yeah. Donna? Are you Donna?
No, I'm Madeline.
No.
Yeah, my question was, how are the yoga and the meditation integrated into the younger children's schedule? Is it something daily that they practice?
Balram, do you want to?
I don't think they are integrated right yet. That's in the plans.
Yeah.
So the new school, there are a lot of things we have to deal with. It's rural areas. First, people just want to come and they're interested because this is an English medium school. So because they think that English medium will make sure that they are learning well. So right now we are only dealing with that. This is our 3rd year. So we haven't really introduced curricular items that we want to. Just some small pieces here and there. they do, they have assembly in the morning and they have assembly before they leave. And during that time they do some activities, but not yoga.
They start with the prayer.
Have they done develop the curriculum for the high school yet?
They are following CBSE schedule. Just
But
started.
there are, the course here at UMass Dartmouth, the Science of Kriya Yoga does that. When I was at Deb Sanskriti University, which is in Haridwar, which is about 6 hours north of Delhi by train, I visited there many times, and it was pretty funny, another sort of little anecdote, but I'd been there twice, and just the hospitality of Indian people just really blew me away. It was so wonderful. But at that university, Dr. Chinmay said to me, he's the head of the School of Yoga and Holistic Health, and he's the son of the chancellor, and he's the grandson of the founder of that university. And he said to me, the first time I went, I was there for 3 weeks, and he said, Dr. Hall, this is your home, and you can come here anytime, and you can bring anybody that you want, and you don't have to tell us you're coming because this is your home. And I was like, wow, I don't have that many relatives that have that great enough for me. And, but the third time I went back there, I called him, and he said, well, you didn't have to call, it's your home. And I said, but I'm glad you called because we're having this conference. And I didn't know what conference it was. It was on indigenous techniques in Indian psychotherapy. And at that university, they've done a lot of studies on chanting, yoga, meditation, in terms of relieving depression and other modes. But it was kind of funny because I arrived there, Dr. Chinmay's secretary picked me up at the train, took me to the luncheon for the conference, and all of a sudden they brought me a name card. I was a distinguished guest at the Indigenous Techniques in Indian Psychotherapy. And I was like, I've had some therapy, I'm not really a practitioner. I don't know if I really should have this card on, but Jerry.
Can you give us a snippet of your results? Or you have the results in? Or?
Well, they're qualitative, so I mean, basically, it's showing how teachers experience that life mapping. So it's really not, probably Balaram can put it in some quantitative means for you, but I'm a qualitative researcher.
What would you say?
Well, it was. I mean.
Conclusion be?
I think that using story or narrative for learning is a very potent way of learning. Now, I always play devil's advocate and I say, well, if I'm teaching organic chemistry, I don't know how much of the life mapping I'm going to do. So I do think that it's subject specific. I've always been in the humanities and in education. So, when you're learning something in the humanities, whether it's sociology or English, you're always deriving meanings from things and then using text as support. So there's not like one right answer in terms. I mean, but it is a way. I think it's a way to more deeply root yourself in who you are. Authenticity as a teacher, which all of you who have taught younger grades. Same with college students, but they can tell you in 5 seconds flat if you're saying, oh, I think this is a good idea to do this way, or if you really believe in something, and you're saying this is important because of this. And when you integrate contemplative practices into education, you kind of have to have a practice, even if it's a little practice of your own. Whether it's I do contemplative writing in the morning, or it's meditation, because otherwise. It's like a teacher who hates to write, and they go, oh, we have to write today. Only a few more minutes, it'll be over. Your suffering will end soon. So, yeah.
So if you had to, I don't know if Fulbright allows this, but if you had to do a follow-up to see how much of what you trained the teachers for has stuck on and carried on, how would that work, and how you planning to do that?
Yeah, I'm actually going back to India December 26th to January 24th. So I probably will do some kind of follow-up. I'm hoping to spend at least 5 or 6 days at the village. So, but I do need some quantitative, and that's not what I do. So that's hard for me. But I have lots of support in that area. But certainly it could be just a qualitative follow-up. Because I could do case studies of some of those teachers. What were things that were new to you? How did you take them in? How have you experienced that? And but it does deserve, in development, it does deserve more quantitative research, which I think probably Pondit has some plans for that, I hope, yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like, what you, if I could interrupt, it sounds like what you're doing could be easily quantified in addition to qualitative. The best studies,
Oh, yeah.
really, to me, are the ones that use both.
Right.
That interlink both
Right.
qualitative and quantitative measurements.
Certainly, but if you're a qualitative researcher, you shouldn't be
Right.
doing the
No, you
quantitative,
link up with
right?
the
No, I
quant-
agree with you, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Annie?
Yeah, I'm very interested in kinesthetic learning.
Yeah.
And what you were saying intrigued me. I'd like to know what you were referring to. But and I've done some brain gym. I don't know if you've heard that, but where body motion integrates the hemispheres. Did you work with kinesthetic learning, say in your poem example?